Hello, everybody. We are live. Welcome back for another episode. If not now, when? And guys, I am so excited today. We have a serious entrepreneur in the house, and her name is Davina Kaonohi. Wow, what a beautiful name. And one thing I love most about Davina is, oh my God, she is such a doer and such a hustler. Guess what she always want to do when she grow up? She want to be an astronaut. Like, isn't that so incredible? Along her journey, her big heart, she always focused on how to create and add value, create impact to others. Today, she's the CEO and a co-founder of Element Apothec, providing a high-quality health and wellness beauty product with social impact to the consumer, to the world. And she's on a mission to creating growth to this world. With that, guys, I am so beyond excited to welcome Davina, and thank you so much for joining us. Welcome to the show.
Thank you so much. I'm so happy to be here today.
Yes. So Davina, tell us a little bit about us, about like how do you start the whole journey? This is beautiful.
Yeah, so let's see my journey. I mean, it's interesting. My father was Hawaiian. You can probably figure out from my name, and so he was born in Hawaii, in Maui, and his family actually was really against Americans. So he met my mom, and they got married, and his family disowned him because they were so strong in their culture. And so I was actually born here in California because since they didn't have family there, my mom wanted to be close to her family, which was here in California. And her family had French and Italian descent. It's an interesting story, but related all the way back to like the Queen of France, and the family went through Canada, and it's really fascinating. Yeah, and so my journey began, already kind of standing up against something that was difficult, because I knew that my dad had chose to family with my mom and be go against kind of the norm, I guess, which a lot of people face today, of standing up and being bold and going with your heart. And so that's something I always admired from a really young age.
How does that impact how you grow up, Davina? Given that how your dad and your mother is such an unconventional path, how does that culture, how does that background, how does that story impact who you are today?
Yeah, I mean, I think it impacted a lot of ways, because when you're young, you don't understand, right? You don't understand, which I think a lot of people deal with now, with a lot of the racial injustice, and why are we different, and how are we perceived, and why don't they want to talk to us or meet us? And so you kind of grow up looking at things from that perspective, but it allowed me to see everybody equally also, because I could look and understand, this is what I personally am going through, and I'm being treated different, which a lot of people don't, but I'm being different. My mom has, a European background, right? So it's opposite of what other people have often experienced. And so I think it just allowed me to have more acceptance for people and their experiences. My parents divorced when I was quite young. And so my dad went back to Hawaii, and we had the opportunity to go to Hawaii often. And the culture there, even though we didn't have his immediate family, the friends welcome us. We call them aunties and uncles, and everybody just loved us. And that also helped inspire me to see, even though we didn't have this support, you could get the support from friends and other people become your circle of support, and you can count on that through your whole life. So on my mom's side, we had a big family, and we would always come together. So I had these interesting perspectives growing up of two different kind of sides. But like I said, I think it gave me just awareness and acceptance of all experiences that people go through in life.
Beautiful. So how's that like growing up as a mixed racial, and in that first generation aspect? Like, how does that feel like, and how does that shape who you are today?
Yeah, I mean, to me, it was just what it was, right? You accept it, but there were challenges there. I think knowing that you were treated different just because of who your racial background is always something that's tricky, I think. But at the same time, both of our families were really proud of their culture. My great grandma spoke French. I learned to speak French when I was young, and the Italian side, they always had these big Italian spaghetti dinners on Sunday nights. And then I had my dad's side. So I don't know, for me, I just think like it just shaped me to give me a good perspective, but there definitely were challenges more that you question, why am I being, why do people not want to know me? Why do my grandparents not want to know me because of my mom? And I think that that's something a lot of people nowadays even deal with, of that kind of racial prejudice of, just because you're this and you're that, I'm going to stay away from you. And so for me, again, it just made me more aware and really accepting of people, that we're all just people, and it doesn't matter what your backgrounds is. It doesn't matter where you came from, but we all have the same heart. We all have the same feelings, and we all have the same, inspirations and things that we like. It doesn't matter.
And you mentioned earlier that your parents separated when you were a little bit young. And I think in our conversation previously, you told me that have shaped how you looking at the world and how you grow up faster. Can you share with a little bit about this experience?
Yeah, I mean, my parents divorced, I was very young. And my mom was young. She had me when she was very young. So she had 3 kids. And life was hard raising 3 kids. My dad was gone to Hawaii, and so she worked hard. She went back to school. She became a nurse, and I often was left at home taking care of my siblings. Young, like 10, cooking dinner and stuff like that. But it
and you're
motivated
the oldest,
me.
Right? You're the oldest.
Yeah,
right?
I'm the oldest.
Got it.
Yeah. So I saw her work hard because she was determined to be more and give us a good life. And that to me was inspiring. I never looked at the fact that like she is a woman doing some of these things. It was just, this is what you do. You have to work hard. And if you want to accomplish things, you push hard. And, so that was a big inspiration. And then just having the responsibility that I had actually, I think benefited me a lot, because I did have to step up, and I had to challenge myself. I used to help my mom even study her medical terminology and things like that when I was. But for me, it was like, there's no path other than being exceptional. There's no path other than, being successful, because I didn't want the same struggles that my mom had. I wanted to have more for myself. I wanted to have more for my family. And there was not going to be anything that stopped me from doing that.
Beautiful. That is so beautiful. So let's talk about your dream. Be the astronaut.
Yes.
Tell us more about how does that come about, and how's your path to that?
Yeah, I'm not really sure where it came about, but I was 5, and it was even in school. You have to do, what do you want to be when you grow up, things, and fill out your little papers and pictures. And mine was to be an astronaut, and I stuck with it. I think, for me, I think it was probably easy, just given the experience with my parents of like, I need to hold on to something. And so that holding on to something for me was, I guess, really reaching for the start to be an astronaut. And so I learned, navigation. I had the glow in the dark stars in my room, and would set it up the constellation. And I just loved spending time outside. I would always be aware of different events that were happening, and if there were any meteor showers, or what the full moon cycle was. And so I continued with that through middle school. I started a young astronauts program at my middle school, and we did all these amazing experiences. NASA partnered with schools and would send you all of this amazing, incredible programs and projects to do. So we started that program, and that was amazing. We got to do some really cool things. I had a teacher that was so supportive, and just, ran with it. She was really excited to do it. So that helped, I think, because I had somebody who continued to support it. My parents did too. They were always like, if that's what you want, then so I continued with that, and I continued through high school taking classes that would be able to help me achieve those goals and get me into a good, aeronautical engineering program. And then I was really fortunate through all of that to get the opportunity to work at JPL and work on one of the satellites. And it was a dream come true, but at the same time, it wasn't everything I had expected it to be. I think I had these grand visions of what that was going to be. And I wanted to someday be on the space shuttle and maybe be a pilot. And so engineering was different than that. And my mind, I think, can think very analytical. Math and science have been strong, but I also love interacting with people and helping people. And so although I got to achieve, what I wanted, and I could have stayed there, and I, would have been able to work hard, but something was missing. And I was also told, being a woman in that industry be really challenging. And I had a mentor, and she said, I see you're an excited young woman, and it's going to be a hard path here. If you can do it, but it's going to take a lot. And hearing that to me was like crushed my dream, that I'm only going to maybe be able to achieve so much. And that, coupled with the fact that I was sitting in a dark room on a computer, and I'm like, how am I helping people right now? So I shifted gears and ended up going into business. And I think that was one of the best things that happened to me.
Was it difficult to pivot? Because you mentioned you had that dream when you were 5, and you are, keep doing that until you were high school, and being selected in such an elite program, have such an incredible mentorship, and that is a huge accomplishment given what you were at that age.
Right.
Yet realize, oh, that's not everything I wanted. Now I want to pivot. Was that a hard choice to make?
Yeah, it was. I remember I talked to so many friends and asked them, am I making the right decision? I talked to my parents. I sat alone in my room, and I had a journal I would write in, and I was writing things like, should I do this or not? And it took me a long time to make that decision. I kept going to the internship and working, and every day there was just something didn't feel right. I just had this intuition, and so finally I made the choice, and I didn't know what that meant, because I had studied so many things to be an engineer and to be, hopefully someday get on the spaceship and be an astronaut. And so I didn't know what that meant, because I hadn't really thought of what the alternative was or what that path would look like. So that I think for me was scary, of not knowing what my future was going to be, because I wanted my life planned and organized, and here's exactly the path that's going to happen. And then all of a sudden you're like, wait a second, this isn't what I thought it would be. And being that young, your mind's still growing and you're still experiencing things. So I think that added to the confusion a little bit of exactly what to do and where I was going to go from there. But I got so lucky with jobs and opportunities after that, and kind of found a space that I was like, oh, I like the business world. And I always sold things when I was young. I started a mini car wash and made little business cards for my neighborhood, and we'd go to Hawaii and sell flower lace to the tourists that were coming in. And
wow.
we always like, even I sold Girl Scout cookies, and it's like I had to sell as many Girl Scout cookies as possible. And so I always had that in me, and I never realized that that was like that entrepreneurial spirit of, I'm making things and I'm doing stuff and I'm selling stuff, until I was able to kind of pivot and make that decision. I was like, oh, I love this business world, and you could do things and make things and people get enjoyment out of it, and you can help people. And so that kind of put me on the path of where I ended up now.
Amazing. So, walk us through the pivotal journey. Like, how does that life unfold after you make a decision that you are going to pivot to business world?
Yeah, it's so funny. I remember making the decision, and then I instantly called a hiring agency, recruiting agency, and I said, I'm looking for a job in business. And then I remember the lady was like, well, you have to come in and take a typing test and do all of these things. So I had no idea where that was going to go, what field I would end in specifically. But I just knew that I wanted to be in the business world at this point. And so I ended up getting a job at a home health company, and they were growing, and I was their office management and human resources, and coming in, they were going to be growing extensively. So I came in, and I just had this amazing opportunity to take control of things that I really had no idea or experience in. But they just basically passed over the reins and said, we need all of these policies, procedures put in place. We need operational plans. We need to hire a whole bunch of people, and here you go, and do it. And so
wow.
yeah.
That's your first job? That's amazing.
Yeah, I mean, younger than that. When I was younger, I mean, as a teenager and stuff, I used to help my mom. She worked in a medical office. I used to, in the summer, do filing and, helping her with medical billing. I always needed to have extra money because I wanted my own money, and I didn't want to count on my mom to have to help because she was taking care of us. So I worked like through my whole teenage years, every summer working with her office manager. So I had some. It was obviously always to be an astronaut. That was just to give me some spending money so I could go out with my friends or go to the mall and go shopping. So when I got the job, I think that was part of it, was that I had that experience. But yeah, I had no experience putting together like employee handbooks or operational manuals. And I just would read everything I could to try to understand how to do this and what's the right way to do it. And I signed myself up for conferences and business expos and like, how can I absorb as much information as possible? And I did, and I was really fortunate because that job transitioned into a software company, and they kind of did the same thing. I went in a position, and the manager of HR ended up leaving, and the director of HR ended up leaving, and so I got put into these roles and had opportunities. I got to learn. They were going to go public. I got to learn all about stock options and what it takes to take a company public, and I just would always throw my okay, what can I learn? What can I absorb? How can I take in as much information? And just really incredible bosses and managers that gave me those opportunities and trusted me to be able to do it. So I'm always ever so grateful of those, those people that trusted and said, here you go, you can do this, even though you may not have experience. We'll be here for you if you need, but go ahead and do it. So that, that continued to lead into more and more opportunities like that, where I was put in positions and was able to grow relatively quickly in those positions. And just each time, what else can I take on? I want to sit in management meetings. I want to learn. I want to talk to the marketing people. I want to understand from the engineers. And so that all, really made a big impact in terms of my, my love of business and all of the components that work together and all of the different people that you need to actually have success within a business.
Wow. Sounds like, first of all, you found your jam and then you really working hard, whether it's sit in the management meeting or study the handbook, whatever you need to really make to the next level. Was that how you always work, or just because you pivot from that astronaut path, now you felt like you need to make up all the experience, therefore you work extremely hard to make it happen? Which one is the case?
I think I was always like that. I worked really hard in school. Like I said, I was young and my mom was taking care of us, and it was hard. I could see she struggled, and I didn't want that for myself. I wanted to have more. And so, in school I studied. I didn't ever want to miss a day of school. I cried once because I was so sick I couldn't go to school. And I would study so hard and made sure I got really good grades. So whatever I did, it was always like the only way, the only way for me to work as hard as I can so that I can change my life and change the path, because if you looked at it from the outside, maybe my path wouldn't have been so successful, or maybe I wouldn't have had opportunities because we were, lower income family and we didn't have a lot of extra things. And I had to work for anything extra I wanted in school or in college, things like that. But it was that motivation that inspired me to say, I want more for myself. And it wasn't, Beautiful. It never was, am I a woman or am I, multi-race? It was just, and I never thought about any of that stuff. It was just, here's my path and this is what I want to get out of life. And I hope if I work hard that'll eventually happen.
Beautiful. And I'm curious, in that path, you were thrown on a position that you are not very clear about, right? You know you like business, but at that time, you don't know exactly what your capability is. You're just learning. Were you ever afraid, or were you ever felt this might not be for you? Will you ever get discouraged? And how do you keep pushing forward, given that the most part of your life at the time was focused on astronaut, which is completely different field, right?
Yeah, I mean, I don't really think I got discouraged. It was more like an imposter syndrome where you sit there and I was at one job, I was interviewing, I was in the management team, and I was interviewing people, and I looked young on top of that, being a woman, and it was for a senior vice president position. And he said, "So when do I get to meet your boss?" And I said, "Well, I am the head of this department, and so there's not anyone else that you'll be meeting with." And then I started to talk about my experience. He's like, "Oh, I didn't realize." I had experiences like that it wasn't discouraging, but it was a little people, obviously looked at me as being a woman. Maybe I looked younger, and they judged my ability to be successful. But there were other times I would sit there and think, how did I get here? Like, why did people trust me with this? Are they sure I'm capable of accomplishing all of these things that they're asking me to do? That would happen sometimes. Or I would sit there. I remember sitting in my office at one time, and I was like, how am I in an office? Like, I have my own office. Do they know that I, don't have a lot of experience? And then I thought, no, I do. I worked hard to get here, but it's that feeling of, am I supposed to really be here? And I think I have talked to a couple, kids in college, and was encouraging them to say, don't ever question the opportunities you get, because you got there for a reason, and people see something in you. And if they see something in you, then you have to, even if in the moment you don't always believe it. Because I think that's what happens to a lot of people. They start going down a path, and then they're like, wait a second, I'm not supposed to be here. And then they kind of give up, which is, the story of Element Apothec. I mean, I've not launched a consumer product company to this extent before. I've been involved with companies, and there's times, or even sometimes in the beginning, I thought, what am I doing? But I surrounded myself with great people, and I just figured, this is my dream, and nothing is going to stop us from launching and being successful.
So let's talk about that. Let's talk about entrepreneur journey. So earlier in your career, you've been throwing a lot of challenging positions, but you rise up regardless, right? How does that, from that moment to become a serial entrepreneur? Tell us about that.
Yeah, I mean, the companies I worked in, I worked in companies that would rise really fast, and then they would make bad decisions. And most of the bankrupt or out of business or were acquired, and I kept seeing patterns of decisions being made, or sitting in management meetings, and the marketing department head or this department head would say, hey, wait a second, or engineering would say, hey, these plans are too aggressive, we're going to fail if we launch with this. And it was always, we need more money, we need to meet the investors' requirements, and so bad decisions were made. And I always remember thinking, if they just would have followed with the people that knew what they were doing and trusted them, those companies would still have been here, and some of those people would be very successful. So that was always something that I kept in the back of my mind. But I never, when I was in it, I didn't really think of not being in the corporate kind of American, position. I was doing it. But I had my son, and I needed to be more flexible in my schedule. He had some higher needs than, and so I needed flexibility in my life. And so that kind of started the transition of like, well, you know what, I've set in these positions. I have this experience. I have witnessed a lot of failures and some successes, and I think I can really make a difference and help companies as they're starting to put in place some of the right teams, some of the right plans, some of the right practices to ensure success. And so I started my, doing consulting, thinking of that, of how I can now help other companies, and maybe some of these companies will end up being successful and make the right choices and have the right team and think about all of the right decisions from the beginning. So that kind of started my path. And then while I was doing that, I thought, I want more. I don't want to just be a consultant and help companies and then walk away. I want to have my own thing. So I launched a coupon site called Effective Living. It was like a Groupon and Living Social. But what I understood from those companies is they take away so much money from the companies that they work for, and it takes a long time to get payments, and so these companies are losing money. So I thought, what if we made it local and we give a higher percentage back to the companies, and we participate with schools and use it as a fundraiser, and we support local businesses and local families. So that was my first kind of big venture on my own, and we did great. We were working hard. We were getting amazing deals and big companies that wanted to work with us, big franchise companies even as well. But I made the mistake that I had helped so many other companies not try to do, which was not really think through the initial partnership that I had and think through where the responsibilities were going to allow things changed, and it didn't work out. And it was, one of the main things I always told companies is that core founding team and your partnership, if it's not right from the beginning, can have havoc on your business. So we unfortunately had to, shut down the business. And it's interesting though, I still stay in touch with some of the companies that we worked with, and hopefully we'll find ways to work together with Element Apothec. So I made a big mistake that I that I had canceled other people, but that once I had that feeling of like I can have an impact and I can really make a difference with the business, it just propelled me to want to do more. It propelled me to want to help more companies and do more consulting and trying to think through of what would be the next business I would want to work on. What do I want to do?
Mm-hmm. Was it hard to move down? Because one thing that I realized is doesn't matter each venture you are embarked, you always, if you fail, you're like, okay, that's good. What lesson can I learn? How can I move forward? How do you always so quickly to pivot and really take the lesson, move forward? And was it hard for you? Or is it just like, this is good, I'm gonna move forward?
Yeah, I mean, it's always hard. It's even the companies that I worked at. I mean, one company that I worked at, we grew to like 1,500 employees, and I was one of the last 7 people there. And so each of those things was so hard. I remember being home and feeling so sad for effective living when I had to make the decision. It's like disheartening. You put so much of your heart and soul into something, and then to walk away from it it's not like, okay, I'm just ready for the next thing. It's sitting there and sitting with that. It's almost, it's a loss, right? Because you put so much effort into something and you have to process it and realize, like for example, that was my own fault. It had nothing to do with having a bad business idea. It was a bad decision I made in terms of not thinking through really how do you lay the right structure to be successful for a business. So that was hard, and I had to face people, and I had to call people, and I had to go talk to school principals and say, sorry, we're not doing this program anymore. And so that was really hard, because I don't like letting people down or disappointing people. And so it wasn't easy. But I also gave myself time to kind of process it, and then thought, okay, let me think through what's next, and how do I not make these mistakes again? Because I don't want to have to call people again and say, I'm sorry, I can't do this again. I don't want that to have to happen again.
So what's next?
Yeah, so after that, like I said, I continued consulting and worked with some great companies, and then kind of was like, what else am I gonna do? So I worked with a family member. We developed this really cool sunglass holder. It's actually still for sale on Amazon, called Ready Spec.
Oopsie. I think Davina lost the connection, but in the meantime, let's see if I can get her back. Wow, her story is so beautiful, everybody. I just love that she is such a strong and bold entrepreneur and learn her lesson, move on to next. I think that just takes so much courage. And I'm really excited to see what she have to say when she come back with her new venture, starting Element Apothec. Hold tight. Let me make sure she is good to go. Oopsie, Friday. Technology happens. Let's see if she can come back. Okay, She is coming back momentarily. Hold tight, everybody. Well, in the meantime, well, thank you so much for staying tuned. We are really excited to share Davina. I met her actually a couple months ago. I just so inspired by how she was just so perseverance, how she reinvent herself over and over again. And I love that she has such a beautiful heart and coming from being the first generation and having her parents divorced early on. Therefore, she has to really grow up faster, really help her mom, help her family, and really, therefore, I think she developed such a amazing work ethic, and that's brought her become the serial entrepreneur that she is today. So I am so admired and impressed by her, and I wanted to share more about how she started the business. So let's see if she will come back. Let's see. Oh wow. Yes. I find her. All right, guys. Happy Friday. Hopefully you have a magical Friday so far. And with that, let's welcome Davina back.
Sorry, I have no idea what happened. My computer literally just stopped working. It's crazy. Anyways, I'm back.
It's Friday. Computer need a break.
It's Friday the 13th on top of that, so maybe that's why.
That is why. So you were saying how you start the business after you move forward with the coupon business.
Yeah, so after that, I was working on a product called Ready Specs, which was a really incredible experience because we had to have it actually created. I was an uncle of mine, and he had designed like just a sample of it, and so we actually had to find a manufacturer to create it and build it out and build out a website and learn everything about selling on Amazon to bring it to the market. So that was my first like real experience. I mean, I think with Effective Living, it was a little bit consumer based in terms of a deal site, but actually dealing with the product and all of the logistics and how do you transport it and get it made here and sent somewhere else. So I loved that. And it was so exciting. The first sale that wasn't a family member when it was on Amazon and the first reviews that were, you have no idea. And you started seeing sales come in from all different places. And I mean, it was just a simple thing, but it was something I don't know why no one ever thought about. And, it's just easy to put in your car, your office, and you can hold your sunglasses. So that's still going, but that wasn't really going to be, that wasn't going to be like the business. It was kind of a project to do and something I really wanted to help my uncle with because he had been talking about it for, I guess, a couple years and had talked to some of these infomercial people to bring it to market, and they pay nothing. Like you get pennies on the dollar for those products if you give it to someone. So that wasn't going to be good enough for for him. I wanted him to have more than that. So after that, I started working on a social media app, which is a whole pivot. Like all these things were so different, but I had met with someone who wanted to put together a social media app that challenged the norm, that wasn't just about taking selfies, that was really about promoting people's passions and the things that they love, which I think is a lot of what social media started out, especially if you look at, early or some of the early posts that people would do and sharing the things that they loved and their artistic capabilities and stuff like that. And then it became so self-focused about, it's all about me instead of sharing my gifts with people. It became so internalized. So I loved that idea. We actually, we created the product. We got a whole bunch of influencers that we had found on Musical.ly, which obviously doesn't exist now because it was bought by TikTok, and people that were the same that said, it's changed and everybody's just doing lip syncs and, copying other people's videos, and who's putting out original content, who's sharing what they really care about, whether it's standing up for a particular right or whether it's, I love skateboarding and I want to share my skill with people. So we found this great group of influencers, and we went to VidCon and got a whole bunch more influencers, and we launched. Then we we in 3 months we had, I think, about 10,000 downloads, which was pretty impressive.
Wow.
But what we also realized, and you know, again, another mistake to think about is like really building out a strong financial plan and thinking about all of the expenses that are going to be involved, and what's your path to profit, and you know, thinking about all of the external costs. How much is we're going to spend on marketing? In this case, social media apps require a huge amount of data storage. And so really understanding some of those components and what the path to market is, and seeing other apps expanding, you know, with Instagram and Musically continuing to grow, and Vine at that point didn't exist, but some of the founders from Vine were looking to relaunch their own apps and have big following. So we realized the path to success was going to be really hard, and to be able to get funding where we were at with all of the big players in the market and talking to investors was going to be really, really challenging. I believe still that that app would be amazing. And I think we need something like that, because people have become so self-focused on themselves and forgot about social media is about social, about sharing stuff and experiences. So I think we still need it, but for us, the decision that to go down that path and continue to invest our own money in something that maybe could have been okay, but I think with the players and especially now the landscape, I think it would have been an uphill battle the whole time and really hard to kind of push through. So we were you know, keeping it going, and we had people that we were committed to and influencers that were really excited about what the product and what we were doing was, because it was different. But we had to make the decision that maybe, you know, the path to success was going to be so difficult, and having the money to keep all of it actually running. So that was about the time that I had the opportunity to shift over to Element Apothec, and the opportunity was presented to me to take over. And so I really thought about it and said, you know, I love this, and I really hope somebody someday takes this idea that has big backing and big funding, and creates a new app that can incorporate some of these things. But I didn't feel like I had the capability, and if I kept taking people's money and investing it in something, I wasn't being fair to those people, because I wasn't sure that I had the ability to be successful with doing that. So when Element Apothec presented itself, it was like, okay, this is it. This is why everything has led me to this point. I have experience with launching a consumer product. I have experience building influencers. I understand myself. I live a life of, you know, really thinking about the products I put in and on my body, and I always know that one time my friends like, do you know when you put that makeup on, do you know what's in there? Or do you know, when you're at this store, like really look at your ingredients. So all of these things came together, and I was like, here it is. This is the path. Here's my opportunity to really make a difference. And I feel confident in this field and this company that I actually can do it. You know, I wasn't concerned that this would be over me, or I couldn't do it. I just felt like, okay, it's finally here. This is my why. This is what everything has led to at this point.
Wow. When Davina, you are just so incredible, moving from a coupon business, a sunglass business, a sunglass holder business, to a social media ad, and then now moving to a consumer brand. Like they are so different, and each one of them are a complete different undertaking. And how are you able to just always show up in such a optimistic and just keep going and keep persistent and keep, you learn each lessons along the journey, but you just learn it and pick up and go to the next thing. Like, how do you able to do that? That's just so admirable.
Like I said, I think a lot of it came from being young, and I think it's the message that even young girls are being told today, like you can break the glass ceiling, right? You can accomplish what you want. And so for me, it helps seeing my mom, struggling, and then being able to be successful raising 3 kids, and so having that kind of, I think, influence in my life helped, and having the teachers that were so supportive of me, of don't give up, even though we grew up in like low to middle income areas, and a lot of the families didn't have money. But I think it's something about your drive. you can't give up, because if you give up, then you'll end up just like where you didn't want to be, right? If that's your drive, then no matter what happens, you're going to have to find a way to change and make it happen. I think that's always been my belief anyways, of, maybe this
Beautiful.
situation didn't work out, and it hurts, and it's hard, and it's hard when things fail, but what's the alternative? To stay there and sit with it, or to try to
Mhm.
figure something else out, to be, to have the
Mhm.
success that you want.
So beautiful. And you said earlier, when you come to Element Apothec, you realize you see the why for yourself. Can you share with us what is your why today?
Yeah, I mean, I love helping people and making a difference. Throughout my jobs, I've had great connections with people, and I've been able to network, and I always am like, oh, if you tell me this, then, oh, have you talked to so and so, they can help you, or with friends. I don't know, there's something about, for me anyways, the gratification of really making a difference in someone's life and helping them, and not expecting something back. Just knowing that I put a smile on someone's face, or help them, to me is everything. I always said, if I could, my ideal job would just be doing nice things for people and getting paid for that, but you can't really get paid for that, right? So how can you do that? And so when Element Apothec came, it's like, I can help bring these products to market that have already shown to be successful, and this can impact people's lives, like really help them, and all of the people involved can benefit from the success of the company. How amazing is that? And so that's, I think, for me, that's the biggest driver, is that we can create things that make a difference in people's lives, and at the same time have a business that can be successful, and benefit all of the people that are involved with it.
Beautiful. So tell us a little bit about Element
Mhm.
Apothec.
Yeah, so Element Apothec, it's interesting because although we're just launching the company, or the product, some of them have existed for many years. And so I had a great aunt who was diagnosed with many autoimmune diseases, which is rare. And she also was very impacted by toxins and preservatives. So the traditional medicines that might work didn't really apply to her, or if she did, as many medications, you have such severe side effects. So she kind of took her health into her own hands and started exploring alternative ways to think about healing yourself, and not just looking at the Western medicine, but looking at Eastern medicine, looking at plant-based medicine, and how it can help you, and how it helped people for thousands of years. And she became knowledgeable of essential oils, and really understanding what every ingredient that you put into a product can help. So she started creating her own products in her kitchen. She even was growing her own cannabis plants, so she could make her own Rick Simpson oil, which is an oil that people make for cancer. And so not all of the products she created at that time had cannabis, but cannabis really, and CBD really helped her a lot. And she basically had to reinvent her personal care, everything. She needed a new lotions because she was dealing with skin conditions, and she needed muscle relief because her body was achy. So she needed all of these things to support her, to help her kind of manage all of these symptoms and stuff, not necessarily to treat the disease, because you can't, right, with some
Mhm.
of this stuff, but just to help aid, and to help her sleep, to help relieve the anxiety. Because if you can do that, then you allow your body to the opportunity to start healing on its own, and get to kind of a level of homeostasis. So she recognized that, and she started creating products for herself. She created products for friends and family. Even I called her, and I have eczema, and so I said, my eczema is really bad, and I keep getting all of these steroids, and they're not helping at all. They help, and then they don't help. Can you make me something? And she cooked it up, and she sent me a bottle of her eczema cream, and oh my gosh, it was amazing. It worked, and it didn't stop working after a couple of weeks or a couple of months. And so I thought, she's amazing. She knows something. And so I started talking to her more about all of these alternative, plant-based remedies. I myself already, everything I ate was organic, and made sure that all of the lotions and shampoos and conditioners, everything I bought in my house was, plant-based or, preservative-free and organic. So I already believed in that and understood the value of that. But also I didn't understand that I could get support with sleep, or I could get support with some of this other stuff. And so I started understanding from her that, and then I built a website for her because she was selling just at farmers markets, and she was in a couple of small local stores where she lived, but she wanted her customers to be able to go online and buy her products. So I built her a little website, and it was chugging along, and she would get orders through it, but that wasn't enough. So she came to me about a year ago, and she said, she's still sick, right? And I don't know how much longer she has to live, and she doesn't either. And what she understood, though, is that these products help people. And she said, I want my products to go from the kitchen to the world. I was given a gift, and I want to help as many people as possible. And that triggered me because I love helping people, and I know her products worked. And I thought, you know what, I don't know everything about what we're doing, but I know how to hire and bring amazing teams together. And I understand that people need this, and people deserve to have products that are good. I understood in the cannabis space, there's so many bad products that are being put out there, and people are being fed misinformation. And in personal care, I mean, ingredients are being hidden. I think we have like 1,800 banned ingredients we could use in our products that you can't use in Europe and Canada and Japan. So I realized that there was a huge problem, and I thought, oh my gosh, I can have the opportunity to have a platform to help push change. We can push out great products. We can help this industry and really elevate it, and I can make a difference in people's lives. So that's kind of what led up to Element Apothec and the idea of launching this business.
Wow. You're such a problem solver. I love that. Almost like in your family, anybody have a problem, have a business, it's like, okay, Davina is a girl to go. And then you just really elevate whatever the idea is and truly bring the gift to the world. It's so beautiful.
Yeah, thanks. Yeah, it's funny. I was saying that to a friend the other day. I'm like, so funny. It's all these businesses were helping a family member do something, but how fortunate it is that to be able to work with your family, and then to take what they started and to be able to create it into something else.
So beautiful. And today, Davina, you reinvent yourself again and again and again and again. I was curious, what is the biggest lesson that you learned along the way? Or let me reframe it as, what is the secret sauce for you for your success?
I think a lot of it is just perseverance of fighting through hard things, of knowing what people expect of you, whether what maybe it's based off of where you grew up, or your income, or different perspectives on you, of just having the perseverance to fight through things, because there were hard times growing up, and they were scary, and there were hard times going at it alone when I was paying for myself through college. There were hard times when you're pushing through, but having that perseverance to say I can't stop no matter what, and around the corner is going to be something else, and be open to what's around the corner. Because I think so many times I especially being in HR, people have this path, which I did at first, right? I had the path of I want to be an astronaut, and even though my gut was telling me not to, I still kept going down that path. And people don't trust themselves to say it's okay to change, it's okay to fail, and to start again. And eventually all of those things will come together, which is what I feel like what happened with Element Apothec is all of these things came together only because I persevered, and I allowed opportunity to be there, instead of trying to just shut the door and say like, oh, I don't know, I don't trust that, or I don't want to do that. You just see what happens and push through, and maybe it won't turn out okay. I mean, there's so many failed businesses, and then you hear they had so many failed businesses, and then one, and then that was the one. But I think all those people just never gave up. I think that's the biggest thing.
So beautiful. I just love that you can able to really listen to your heart and be bold and trust that voice and keep pushing it through, even though the times are hard, you get that anyway. And you talk about perseverance. I know right before the call we talked about this. I really want to just honor you. This week has been challenging for you and your family, but you show up every day regardless, bring that big smile, keep pushing the business forward. It's so beautiful.
Yeah, thank you. Yeah, it's been a hard week, and suffered the loss of my stepdad, and so it's been hard. And he was such a pivotal person in my life. He came into my life when I was a young adult, and was kind of the stable person. He was successful in his career and had worked hard, and so I would always, I had him to go to say, like, am I crazy if I do this or talk about it? And he was like that for everybody. And he also worked hard. He came from poverty. They lived in Nova Scotia, and he worked hard to be, a very successful person. So it's been a loss for my family, but I contemplated, just shutting down for a few days to process it. And I think it is important to grieve and take time, but also I'm launching a business, and we're starting our sales in a week and a half, and there's people that are counting on us. There's people that have invested in us. I've invested in myself. We've, put our money into the business. And so it goes back to that again, of perseverance, of, some days you may want to just like curl under the blanket, especially now with COVID and so much stuff happening. And it's okay to do that, but you have to get out of the blanket, and you have to show up, and you have to push through even when it's hard. So that's been this week for me. I've struggled, and I've wanted to stay in bed, and there was a couple times I gave myself that opportunity to do that, and then I'm like, okay, I got to get up. I can't be here, because if I have too many people counting on us right now. I have too many people that are expecting us to do well, and I want us to do well. And I know that we have an opportunity to really help people and to change the industry and to fight for better. And so you just have to do it.
Wow, so beautiful. And today is a pandemic time, right? It's probably a hard time for a lot of people. Do you have any advice on, if someone been through challenges, maybe like yours, maybe in different aspect, how can he or she move forward?
I mean, I think a lot of it is self-care, right? Of really taking time for yourself, and sitting with it, because I've heard people say, like, just get up and do it. And it's like, well, sometimes you can. It's okay to sit with the hard feelings. It's okay to let them out, however that has to be, whether it's crying or sitting under the blanket, or just, whatever it is. But give yourself time for that, but also don't give up on yourself, and push through, and take care of yourself. Make sure you sleep. For me, I try to have a nightly routine where I stretch. I put my technology away. It's hard because you're launching a business and you could work till like 12 or 1 in the morning, but try to take care of yourself. And like for me, I started doing meditation and affirmations and journaling, and those things at least give structure when there's not structure in the world right now, because at least it's like, okay, this is what I have to do, and at this time in the morning I have to start working, and you know and setting your schedule so that you give yourself some of those little breaks that you might need throughout the day when things are hard, or maybe there's bad news, or crazy political stuff that's happening. But also just don't stop, because if you stop, then who's going to pick it up? Like, there's nobody else there except yourself.
Beautiful. My last question for you is, Davina, is what does American dream mean for you?
What is the what?
What does American dream means for you?
I mean, for me personally, it just means having the opportunity to accomplish whatever it is that I want to, and and allowing, those opportunities to be there for people. I think for me, I mean, the American dream I've been able to experience so many times, I think, in so many of the opportunities, even, through education. I mean, having the internship at JPL, I mean, those opportunities aren't afforded to people everywhere, to be able to get up and just have a life that you want. And sometimes it's hard, and sometimes you have to push through adversity, but it's there for people if they, if they push. And so that's, for me, the American dream is just having those opportunities, and really, for me, I think now with Element Apothec, my dream is just to help as many people as we can.
Oh my God, Davina, you are such a beautiful soul. I am just so admired, and thank you so much for showing up today fully with such a tough time for you and your family. and share such a beautiful journey with us, how you reinvent yourself over and over and over again. And even the time is hard, you show up with a big smile on your face, regardless, pushing forward, driving the business, deliver the value. It's just so beautiful. So I am so honored to have you today. Thank you so much for sharing that amazing journey. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you. I mean, I love what you're doing of trying to tell the stories behind the businesses and the stories behind the people, because everybody has a story and everybody got there by, whether they were given opportunities or they had to fight. Like, everybody has a path and things that they had to accomplish. I think people forget that sometimes when they see success and they think that it was easy for them. I mean, I do. We're fundraising, and I looked at other businesses. I'm like, how do they get that money so fast? That's not fair. We have to work so hard, and it's like, you know what? That's okay. Everybody, we don't know their story, and so you're allowing all of these stories to be told. So I really appreciate that you're doing that.
Oh, thank you. I think sharing stories just made me so happy. I think it's connecting all of us all together. We all on our own journey for whatever we are going after. And I think the commonality of the struggle, of the perseverance, of the boldness is what connecting all of us. And we are here to support everyone. So thank you. I'm so honored and really appreciate you.
Thank you.
All right, everybody. Really hope you enjoyed this beautiful, beautiful podcast. Have a wonderful, magical Friday. Bye, guys.
Bye.